Alright, maligayang araw at gabi wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest episode. Of course, medyo busy tayo this week. We had Justice Carpio a bit earlier, and then of course we had the head of Okta Research. Ang dami mga bagay na pinag-usapan natin with our great guest. Today, we have with us again former Senator Antonio Trillanes. Thank you very much, Senator, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Richard, for inviting me again
As
on
always,
your podcast. Yeah.
as always, I'm sure many people are looking forward to the conversation we're gonna have kasi medyo wide-ranging ang discussions natin. And of course, more important than
Mhm.
that, medyo very forthright and straight to the point tayo. First of all, pag-usapan natin itong gentleman's agreement. Earlier, the discussion with Justice Carpi, among others on this. Ano ba to? Katraidoran ba to? Ano ba nangyari? What is your understanding of gentleman's agreement and why one spokesman of Duterte will say this, the other spokesman of Duterte will say that? Dami mga contradictory statements coming out. Sino paniwala natin? China or si Panelo or si Harry Roque? What's going on there?
Well, una-una, yung gentleman's agreement as they described it, I think it's one form of the what's this diplomatic engagement, di ba? Okay. So ito kasi between heads of state. So there's nothing wrong with that per se, except dapat kung ikaw head of state ka, in this case si Duterte, dapat tinutulak mo at pinoproteksyonan mo yung interest ng bansa mo. But the details of that agreement as articulated by Harry Roque, lopsided yon against the interest of the country. Kasi nga, di ba, pagka pinagbabawalan mo yung repair nung barko natin, di masisira yon. Remember, commissioned ship pa siya. So, dapat walang pwedeng pumigil sa atin sa pag-repair ng barko natin, which is technically commissioned vessel of the Philippine Navy pa rin, di ba? So yun, yun ang naging problema dyan. Now, kung sino papaniwalaan, I believe based on the sequence of events, naglabas yung China about the secret deal with the Duterte administration, tapos sinabi rin nung DFA na yun daw ang sinasabi na lumalabas, the deal with the Duterte administration. Then lumabas si Harry Roque, dinitalya niya kung ano yung mga ano nun, kung ano nilalaman ng secret deal na yon. So, in this case, yun na, nabuo na yung storya. Ngayon, itong belated appearance ni Panelo, ano to, crisis management na ito, PR crisis management. And wala na yan. You can extract that or strike that out from the public discourse yung kay Panelo. So, ito na yon, no? At itong kay Duterte, di ba, dapat siya naman yung magsasalita dyan. Ngayon, titignan natin, ano ba? Is it really parang uh, unbelievable or out of character for Mr. Duterte to make such a gentleman's agreement na lopsided against the interest of the country? No, I don't think so. Dahil nakita naman natin, all 6 years ni Duterte, talagang sinasabi niya, ang mga sinasabi niya na statements publicly are really favoring China. Sinasabi niya na sasama siya sa ideological flow ng
Ideological
China.
flow, yeah.
Oh yeah, then sabi niya gawin na lang uh, probinsya ng China yung Pilipinas, 'di ba? Tapos nakita mo dinidefend niya si Xi Jinping, mahal na mahal daw niya, tinitira niya yung Western powers. So consistent itong nilabas na detalye ni Harry Roque doon sa mga previous public pronouncements ni Duterte na talagang parang ano siya vassal state ng China. Kaya yun ang pinakang problema dito. Now, as it is, as articulated, talagang katrayduran yon in the sense na hindi niya pinaglaban yung interest ng Pilipinas, ano, kung hindi, binigay pa niya, no? At binigyan niya ng basbas ng presidente ng Pilipinas. Now, how different is that with the 2012 back channel talks nung panahon ni Pinoy? So yung circumstances kasi noon, yung circumstances noon, talagang yung status quo was different. April 8, nagkaroon ng standoff, nag-swarm yung mga Chinese vessels, numbering almost 100. We had 3 Philippine vessels there. Mainit yung tension noon to the point na muntik na magkaputukan. So when I was appointed as the back channel negotiator a month after, talagang mainit na intention, and the mission was to de-escalate the situation. Kumbaga as it is dun sa status ko at that time, dehado tayo kasi they were swarming inside and outside the Scarborough Shoal. Tapos sa atin, tatlo lang yung vessels natin. Tapos mainit yung tension. So the mission was to de-escalate the tension and to reduce the number of ships dun sa Scarborough Shoal. And through the 3-month list natin, almost all, except for the 3 na nasa labas ng shoal. Okay? Maliwanag yan. Wala tayong binigay, even an inch of our territory. Maliwanag din na wala pa silang reclamation dyan sa Scarborough. At ano pa rin, uh, wala sila doon. Walang Chinese vessels inside the shoal. So nagawa yung mission. Now, I think ito yung mistake ng China, no? They thought by leaving the 3 ships there, parang they would be flexing their masses na tipong, hindi nyo pa rin kami totally, kasi may naiwan dito, kahit umalis sila, no? Umalis sila eh. At the end of the day, kung sa inyo yan, ba't kayo umalis? It's because of the negotiations. Pero nung hindi sila umalis, si Pinoy, finailan niya, sila ng arbitration case, which we won. And because of that victory, perpetually negated na sa international community yung kanilang 9-dash line. So, every time they will raise it up, meron ng pang-kontra noon na may official decision na yung arbitral tribunal. So, I believe yun yung mistake nila because kung inalis nila yung tatlo na yun, dapat hindi magpa-file si Pinoy kasi bumalik sa status quo. And that's the result of the back channel negotiations. Kumbaga, diplomatic approach pero nilaban natin yung interest, no? Now, let me just point out, Richard, yung difference between the negotiations then and the negotiations now. Back then, we were dealing with President Hu Jintao back in 2012. Now, they're dealing with President Xi Jinping. Now, there is a difference in terms of foreign policy nung time na yon at nung time ngayon. Nung time na yon, hindi pa sila aggressive in expanding. Ano pa lang, yung Hu Jintao administration was basically an extension of the Deng Xiaoping economic approach or economic
Full rise,
domination.
peaceful development, all of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
peaceful rise, yeah. And economic domination, di ba? Ayun. Pero nagbago yon kasi nga si Jinping na yung nag-approach. So that's nagtataka kasi sila. Bakit nanalo nung 2012 sa negotiations pero ngayon hindi na. Yan yung nakita natin na isang noon. Tapos, ang critical element dito, doon sa mga panahon na yon, nung 2012, um, November, incidentally, nagko-coincide doon sa transition of power sa US and sa China. Sa US, nagkakaroon sila election noon, which Obama eventually won. Pero nung 2012 din November, merong succession at papalitan na si Hu Jintao. And may mga pumapalit noon, may mga pumupostura noon, yung grupo nila Bosilay and what's this, get in the way of the succession of Xi Jinping. So nung time na yon, ang attitude din ng Beijing is to de-escalate. Hindi pa sila hindi pa solid yung kanilang transition of power, very fluid pa. Kaya ganun yung circumstances nun. Kaya dapat maintindihan natin na nagbabago yung context niyan through time, no? Depende dun sa mga nangyayari nung mga panahon na yun.
So
Mhm.
just to be clear about this, Senator Trillanes, what you're saying here is that while there is a point to diplomacy and you have to be clear about your red lines, it's also important to keep in mind sinong kausap mo, anong willingness, openness sila to any kind of compromise. And of course, as you correctly pointed out, by December 2013, shortly, literally 6, 7 months after Xi Jinping consolidates power, that's where nagsimula yung reclamation. And with
Yes.
inferiority of the militarization and now what I call militiaization, this deployment itong mga
Yeah.
armada. So what you're
Mhm.
arguing is that back then, because you were dealing with a much more, I would say, moderate
Moderate.
administration on a less, let's say, dictatorial regime, you felt
Mhm.
that there is a sound basis to try to diffuse a naval standoff, very serious situation
Mhm.
back then. While
Yeah.
you're arguing that sa panahon ni Digong, medyo mas mahirap kausap itong China na to. So diplomacy is less about compromise, but more about imposing their will on the Philippines. Just to be clear about this, the Cayetano term in the Department of Foreign Affairs, it coincided with the so-called at least three no's dead red line nila, which is no militarization or reclamation sa Scarborough Shoal, no unilateral development of resources sa ating sa West Philippines, sa ating exclusive economic zone, and pangatlo sabi nila no forcible expulsion of our troops. I'm just trying to be fair also to them because this is
Mhm.
officially
Yeah.
what Cayetano said. But can you just clarify to us why yung sinasabing status quo ni Harry Roque is inherently inimical to our national interest or contrary to our national interest as the DFA put it? Can you explain to us the logistics of that? If hindi natin na-fortify itong BRP Sierra Madre, how is that against our national interest? Para lang doon sa mga iba na mukhang hindi nila alam yung logistical realities on the ground.
Okay, just for context, meron tayong 9 islands or formations or reefs na ino-occupy, no? Then kasama na diyan yung Ayungin. Yung Ayungin through the BRP Sierra Madre, no? So yung status ko nung rotation nung sa Pag-asa and other outposts, walang problema doon. Pero kung ipe-prevent mo yung pag-repair ng BRP Sierra Madre, detrimental to our interest yun kasi nga ano na siya dilapidated na yung barko at pagka hindi yan na repair ng maayos, talagang ano na yan, baka isang typhoon na lang yan, it would be swept away, no? Pagka nawala yan diyan, therefore, pwede na nilang dapaan yung ayungin na yan to prevent yung outpost. Ngayon, ilalagay lang natin yung history niyan. Bakit ba natin sinadsad yan? Sinadsad natin yan in response dun sa pagkuha nila ng Mischief Reef. Di ba? Mischief Reef, una, naglagay sila ng
1995, no? Tapos
fisherman
1999.
shelter, gano'n. Tapos eventually nilagyan na nila ng base. So in response, ito ngayon, yung ERAP administration, nagsadsad sila ng BRP Sierra Madre. I was still in the Navy then, kaya alam ko yung ano nun, surrounding circumstances nun. Maraming mga options na nilatag nun for in response dun sa ginawa nila sa Mischief Reef. Pero ultimately, they ended up with deliberately was this running aground ditong BRP Sierra Madre. Pero ang nakita ko lang na bago nito, noong una yung rotation, mga Navy, ano yan, personnel lang nandiyan dyan, may officer pa. So yung maintenance ng barko, ano yan inherent yan sa Philippine Navy personnel. Yung pagre-repair ng deck, pag-maintain ng naval guns, yung communications equipment, etc. But then, during the GMA administration, they decided, I don't know kung sinong mga ano non, leaders non, na they decided palitan yung Navy personnel ng mga Marine personnel. Okay. Yung Marines, ano yan sila sa, sabi ko nga, sa digmaan, maasahan mo sila. But they don't have any idea on how to maintain a Navy ship. So, simula nun, wala na, napabayaan na. Kasi nung Navy pa lang yun nandoon, naka-assign doon, kahit nakasadsad siya, they were operating as though this was a regularly commissioned Navy ship. So yung nire-repair, nire-repaint yung deck na kinakalawang, ano siya, as thorough yung maintenance niya as the ships na nandoon sa Cavite Naval Base. Pero nung tinanggal na, ito na ngayon na dilapidated na talaga siya, napapabayaan na siya. Kaya ang initial suggestion ko dyan, mag-redeploy tayo ng Navy personnel dyan, yung mga bosoms mate rating na tinatawag namin, those who are adept at maintaining the deck, no, the ship. So kaya nilang i-repair yan. Would you believe, Richard, pagka binalik mo yan sa Navy with the proper logistical support, they can bring that back to almost original state. Kaya nila yan kahit nandoon
Mm.
sa gitna ng ayungin kasi
Right.
that's the maintenance culture of the Philippine Navy.
Senator Trinas, I really appreciate this kasi parati kong iniisip this kasi I give talks do sa iba-ibang
Mm.
branch ng AFP. Yung isang time sa mga Marines naman, sabi niya, Sir, actually kami yung nagbabantay dyan. And then, oh nga no, sabi ko, yeah, Marines. So I was wondering, ano yung kasaysayan na yung Marines ay nandun, hindi yung
Mm.
Philippine Navy. So thank you so much for explaining that, which I think is a perfect segue, no? Because the next thing I want to talk about is itong quadrilateral patrols. Finally, nangyari
Mm.
yan. Now, of course, may ibang mga ex Duterte official na senador ngayon na re-election is nagte-take credit dito sa quadrilateral summit na yan kasi na-mention daw niya last year and I was saying actually mini-mention namin lahat yan for 6, 7 years dahil lang sa dating boss mo hindi nangyari yan so it has nothing to do with you but anyway putting aside itong mga antics ng mga ex Duterte official now suddenly matapang na sa West Philippine Sea. Anong ambag ng itong quadrilateral patrols na yan and other things na inisip natin? Because, Senator Jones, let me be very honest about this. I'm a little bit annoyed with the patronizing tone coming from some of the American experts and official na tulungan natin mga Pilipino, kailangan nila ng joint patrols, mga ganun. Like, I see the point of stronger military cooperation and all. Pero katulad ng sinabi niyo kanina, kayang-kaya naman natin gawin yan. We can fortify this on our own. Uh,
Mm.
mas may malalaki tayong mga barko, di ba? We haven't used the best of the best yet, di ba? Um, Logistically, what is your suggestion here? Should the Philippines also do joint resupply with the US? Should the Americans have drones in the area all the time? Or corvettes or frigates? How can our allies be more useful? And how can we make sure China doesn't harass us the way they have done? Kasi, ang tanong ko rin dito sa inyo, Senator Trillanes, is that for a long time, from the time you did your own backdoor negotiations with China to this gentleman's agreement, etc., under Digong, China has not fired a shot. I mean, as far as guns goes or cannons go. But itong mga water cannoning nila is increasingly lethal. Kaya ang suggestion ko, sabi ko sa gobyerno, i-compare nyo yung punching power ni Mike Tyson dun sa water cannon. So people realize lethal ito. It's almost lethal. So what are the options we have? What is the best way for us to assert our rights there without being harassed or do it best? And at the same time, make sure we get help from our allies.
Okay. Um, marami, no? Maraming pwedeng gawin. Pero kasi intindihan natin, kung ang objective ng Marcos administration is to draw international attention, kasi talagang if you charter a wooden ship, talagang bubugbugin siya na that way, no? But kung gusto mo ng kung ipapadala mo yung white ships mo, yung Coast Guard vessels mo na medyo malaki-laki, kaya naman i-withstand yung water cannons na yon kasi they were designed actually to withstand mga typhoons, di ba? Yung lang water cannon kaya yon. Ngayon, another way is pwede kayong makipag bombahan ng water cannon doon, di ba? Meron din yung Coast Guard, which is what the Japanese Coast Guard did during the Senkaku standoff. Pero para na kayong mga batang nagwa-water gun na di ba? Battle. Ano yan there's nothing to be achieved there. Kaya nga depende 'yon sa focus or purpose ng Marcos administration, if it's to draw international attention kung paano nang bubuli yung China, well, they were able to achieve it. Di ba? They were able to achieve that. Kasi kung Coast Guard vessel dadali mo dyan, kahit na ano yan, ano yan kayang-kaya yon barko. So hindi ka gaano makakagain ng sympathy, di ba? Pero dahil doon, di ba? If it's really by design, ito ngayon nakadraw ka ng mga international coalition to ano, at least help us, support us. Then itong na-mention mo na quad patrols, ito naman parang ano lang ito. This is just to give China an idea na we're not alone in this, di ba? Pwede yan, yung freedom of navigation patrols operations. Pero malayo yan yung pinagawa ng pinagpatrolyahan ng Quad doon sa Ayungin. Now, if we would send our gray ships doon sa Ayungin to resupply, ano to? Kumbaga, pwede mong gawin yan, pero kailangan kakalkulate mo din ano ba yung magiging response nila. So pataas na ng pataas yan, escalate ng escalate yan. So until magkakaroon ka ng standoff, then doon ka ngayon. Babalik ka doon sa situation doon sa 2012 na ano yon, depende na yun sa kausap. Pero I believe the back channel approach that worked in 2012 may not work this time around because again of the foreign policy shift of the Xi Jinping administration, which is ano na, open expansion na, at ano na sila, parang bordering rogue state na sila, no? Nawala na yung Belt and Road, ano, 'di ba? Economic, kumbaga they were trying to charm the whole world with their economic might. Pero ito hindi na. Na tipong, sige, we will stand toe-to-toe with you on this. Now, yung sinasabi natin, pwede, another approach is, and I've been suggesting this, pwede naman heliborne yung operations. Yung ating ship
Aerial.
na, oo, kahit Coast Guard ship yan, may heliborne capacity yan. So magdadala sila doon, 10 minutes away, ayungin, they will drop the supplies. Then, ano, eventually nga, pwede tayong maglagay ng heli deck dyan sa BRP Sierra Madre. So yung rotation, pwede rin ganon through that. So pagka ganun kasi ginawa, sino yung haharangan nila? Hindi nila mahaharang yon. If they do anything aggressive towards that helicopter at mag-crash yun, aba, iba na yon. Problema nila yon. As you mentioned
Tama
nga,
sa
di ba?
mutual defense treaty yan because very clear ang at least Trump
Yes.
and Biden na any attack on our vessels, aircrafts, and soldiers
No.
and personnel will activate the mutual defense treaty.
And kaya nga nakita mo, di ba, as you observed, inaano nila, ini-skirt nila yung they're just was this doon lang sa gray zone sila kasi anything beyond the red line magti-trigger ng mutual defense treaty. So maraming ways to resupply. As I mentioned, pwede nilang gawin itong ginagawa nila, mag-charter kayo ng wooden ship, mukha kang underdog talaga, pero itago mo yung mga tao mo para hindi sila masasaktan, di ba? Pero gusto mo ng medyo sturdy siya or all-weather ship, yung Coast Guard, meron silang ganyang vessels that can withstand typhoons, so kayang-kaya nilang water cannon and they can proceed just ignoring the water cannons of China, or they can do what the Japanese did during the Senkaku standoff, magputukan sila ng water cannon, di ba? Or they can do the heliborne approach. So these are just some of the ways na pwedeng gawin without escalating or the
Or directly
tension by
involving the
using grayships.
Americans. Or directly
Yeah.
involving the Americans. Kasi feeling ko medyo ahead of time, medyo advance mag-isip yung iba na, hey, dapat yung kasama yung US sa resupply and all. Ako kasi ang concern ko dito is,
Di ba
we
yun?
don't want to come
Oo.
off as tuta ng America or masyadong dependent sa America because I
Mhm.
think we're very much capable of doing this on our own. tama
Yeah.
po yung sinabi niya, medyo malalaki-laki na yung mga Coast Guard vessels natin. Medyo matino na rin yung ibang warships natin. So, in fairness kay Pinoy,
Yeah.
and throughout the past decade, medyo nag-modernize naman yung capabilities natin. So, but siguro the US, do you think they should still have an over-the-horizon presence? Maybe just a frigates in the area or some drone, just in case to make the Chinese think twice. I mean, they have been doing that anyway, but
Yeah. Yeah.
even more explicit, institutionalized.
Okay, they have been doing that, and you know why? Because ano sila, stakeholder sila do sa Mutual Defense Treaty. Kaya binabantayan nila yung ating resupply missions because they would be able to know firsthand kung kailangan nilang i-trigger yung Mutual Defense Treaty. And yun din ang pinakang guard mo against over-aggressiveness of China, to the point na may masasaktan o mamamatay na Navy personnel. Yun. Mm.
Now, let's talk about this upcoming trilateral summit because one of the things that is expected to be signed shortly after actually trilateral summit is a visiting forces agreement style deal with Japan. There's still some debate about ano talagang meron dyan. Some say it's just a reciprocal access agreement. Officially, that's going to be the term, not the visiting forces agreement. But uh, there is there's some people are saying that down the road, baka ang gusto ng Japan magkaroon din ng rotational access to some of the bases in the Philippines. Now, we can have a long conversation whether papasa yan sa KO party, given the
Mm.
constitutional institution in Japan. But it looks that's the direction of the wind. If China keeps on bullying us, how do you feel about itong Japan coming in, potentially having more direct cooperation with us? They have done very well in terms of helping us in our Coast Guard capability. Fumio Kishida, Prime Minister of Japan here in the US, just recently said we want to be a global partner of the US. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang Robin to the Batman in Asia, but a kind of a Justice
Mm.
League, right? We want to be part of this kind of a group of people helping. And then pagdating sa US naman, I think it's unavoidable to talk about this. What do you think BBM should do on the Taiwan question? Because I think a big priority for Biden would be to essentially get the Philippines on board on any Taiwan deterrence strategy. And probably part of that would be more American presence on northern bases natin, hindi lang Cagayan Isabela, maybe in Batanes. What is your read also the Taiwan angle and also Japan coming in? And of course, Japan also has an interest in Taiwan. So itong trilateral, big part of that is also Taiwan as much as it is West Philippine Sea.
Well, as you correctly observed, ano to this is mainly for deterrence, no? And as to the Philippines' involvement in any potential Taiwan conflict, and I think we're already there, no? It with the EDCA bases, no, in full development mode, ando dyan na yan, ano? Siguro by next year fully operational na yan. Yun yung deterrence, or at least it will help China think twice or thrice before crossing that red line. Kasi meron nang magso-support ng any upsurge in military operations ng US. Now, yung Japan, yung visiting forces agreement with Japan, so ibig sabihin as a partner nga, no, kasi we have to understand kasi yung US Navy, ano na to, medyo stretched na sila, no? They may need some of the surface assets of Japan. So para lang mas masanay kung magpapatrol dito, meron din silang protection sa kanilang mga troops through this visiting forces agreement. And remember, Japan, bago pa lang ito, kumaga coming out, coming out period niya to, kasi dati 'di ba, Japan Maritime Defense Force lang sila, so internal lang sila. So ngayon lang sila lumalabas ulit, venture outside their EEZ and territorial waters. So kailangan nilang ano rin, matrain yung kanilang mga sailors into having joint operations with other navies, di ba? Para malaman nila yung mga replenishment at sea at iba't ibang evolutions na ginagawa ng mga fleets, mga mid-sized
Operational capacity building, yeah.
yeah. Oh. So kung yun, kailangan nila ng exercises niyan, di ba? Meron yan meron allied tactical procedures yan, yung mga flags, yung mga symbols, kailangan nilang gawin yan. Ano? Although parang antiquated na yung ganong approach, but during times ng magkakaroon ng kumbaga mag-shutdown yung inyong electronic capability, eh meron pa rin kayo ng basics ng
Analog, oh.
analog, no? So, ano yan? Magbe-benefit yung Japan dan at magbe-benefit din yung Pilipinas dito. We're not being drawn into any war here. Ang ginagawa lang natin, 'di ba? If somebody needs help, historically yung Pilipinas nagre-responde. In the same vein, nung tayo naman nangailangan ng tulong, tinulungan din naman tayo. Ito lang, we just recently celebrated yung araw ng Kagitingan. Maalala natin, 'di ba, nung na-occupy na tayo ng Japan, yung US actually had the option to leapfrog over the Philippines and go direct to the islands closer to Japan. But then it was through the commitment of General Douglas MacArthur na tipong teka, kinumit natin na palayain yung mga Pilipino. So they did, 'di ba?
Along with
At
Australians. Along with
along with
Australians. Yeah.
Australians and New Zealanders, etc. Basta tinulungan tayo. And ganun lang yon. That's how we should act. No? Hindi yung parang ayaw mo conflict avoidance ka, therefore hindi ka sasama sa mga kahit na anong ano. Pero pagka ikaw na kailangan ng tulong, paano ka ngayon sasaklolo, di ba? So ganun lang yon. And hopefully hindi tayo darating doon precisely pag nakita nung China na teka, it's not going to be a quick war that you anticipate. It's going to be long drawn and even bloody for their part.
The, a little bit specifics on that. I completely agree with you, Senator, in the
Mm.
sense that hindi pwede yung hingi lang tayo ng hingi. It's a give and take
Yeah.
relationship.
Mm.
Having said that, maybe we have a slight divergence of opinion here. Ako naman, ang issue ko lang kasi dito is, I look at Jordan, Egypt, Pakistan, never mind Israel or Ukraine. All of these countries have received direct aid or significant amount of very advanced American weapon systems. No, I mean Egypt, for instance, or even Jordan. They all have F-16 fighters. Again, I don't know. I don't want to come out like mendicant or something like that. But ang thing ko is, what should Marcos push for here? Should he push for some? Kasi wala pa tayong mga multi-role vessels. Sorry, multi-role fighters. And the warships na we have, the modern one na napuntahan ko, yung BRP Rizal, mga ganun, purong Korean made yan, di ba? Some of the strategic weapon systems we're getting are Indian. The BrahMos, which has Russian derivative, Soviet derivative. Ang tanong ko dito is, should BBM aggressively push for Americans to give us much better terms for some of the things that we really need? Para hindi lang tayo hanggang nagbibigay lang ng basic access, hindi lang rentier relationship. We should be also a capable ally which can project power and help in international public goods provision, anti-piracy, etc. How much we should focus on also getting Japan and US to accelerate our AFP modernization, which we discussed in the last meeting, yung $36 billion 10-year program.
Well, I totally agree with you, Richard, on that one. Hindi naman pwedeng masyadong bargain, di ba? I agree na kailangan din natin yung tulong, mutual itong tulungan natin. Pero, di ba, kung gusto niyo mas makatulong kami ng mas maayos, edi iaano nyo, kumbaga i-upgrade nila yung ating weapon systems. Alam mo, ang problema lang kasi ito, no? One of the things raised nung when I was dealing with some US government officials in Washington is yung pagiging compromise nung panahon ni Duterte na if you are entrusted with military weapons, US military weapon
Baka
systems,
mapunta sa China.
yun, oo. Kaya yun yung issue sa atin. Medyo mabigat kasi yung the countries that you mentioned, may mga nagkaroon sila ng access sa mga US weapon systems because they have already demonstrated na meron silang safeguard mechanisms na hindi basta-basta ko-compromise yung mga military secrets sila. Pero sige, kahit ando doon na yun, Pero tama kayo mga basic platforms, no? Para lang parang mahasa lang yung mga AFP personnel natin dun sa mga more modern weapon systems. Like sabi ko nga kahit sa Navy, yung mga dinicommission nila mga Oliver Hazard Perry class na frigates, ano yun, pwedeng lagyan ng platforms in the same way na binigay nila sa Taiwan, di ba?
Modernize
Taiwan,
natin konti, oh.
Taiwan yung missile system, so wala nako-compromise sa weapon systems nila, pero naano natin, nagkakaroon tayo ng platform para to train yung ating mga personnel. Yung mga ano rin, yung sinasabi mong mga multi-role fighters para mahasa yung mga piloto natin. Anyway, dito na tayo, yung mga Korean jet fighters. Maganda yan, pero parang entry level yan
Oh,
eh. Entry
transitional
level.
talaga eh. Tama
Oo,
ka.
lead-in
Entry
level
level.
yan. Oh. Oo, pero 'di ba dito na tayo kung medyo maganda-gandang bakbakan kahit papaano hindi naman kawawa yung mga piloto natin. So, pwedeng i-demand 'yan ng Marcos administration. But I think pinipace naman nila. I think eventually they will get there. Ito lang kasi, remember, this situation that we're in was not planned from the start. No, o nung pag-upo ni President Marcos. Kung hindi, it was forced on him by the circumstances because ipinush away siya ng China basically. Kaya ito na ngayon, they're doing things on the fly but kahit papano nakakahabol and eventually yun na nga yung parity naman. Wag naman yung ano, tulungan nyo kami. Sabi nga dun sa ano, 'di ba? Help me, help you, parang gano'n.
Kay Tom Cruise at saka si ano, Cuba, di ba? Yun, help me, help you. Di ba? Yun ang dapat. That,
Oo.
I love that. That's one of my favorite expressions, right? Kaya nga, you want the
Ah,
Philippines not to be just tagabigay ng basing agreement, mga ganun. You know, you want us to be able to also project ourselves kasi we're increasingly getting there. Just last one on this foreign policy before we go to the meat of discussion, more Duterte and ICC and our favorite topics. Ito, for me kasi strategic investments I think is also very important. So the other week nasa Germany kami, na-meet namin si Chancellor Scholz. You know, he gathered some of the thought leaders from Global South, Brazil, South Africa, etc. And one of the things I said is, naintindihan ko na meron kayong business interest. You know, when you go to a country, Benz, BMW, whatever, you're looking at investment environment. But at the end of the day, parang talent scouting yan, di ba? Pag magaling kang talent scout, hindi ka mag-invest lang dun sa mga players na mature na kagad. May mga players na medyo may mga kulang here and there, but you see a long-term vision, their long-term talent. So mag-invest ka doon. And I said Philippines is kind of like that in the sense that may mga kulang tayo in terms of investment, environment, and all. But you see, all the investments are going to Vietnam. You think Vietnam is going to side with the West against China? No, they have their own interest, right?
yeah.
They're putting a lot of investment in Malaysia, whose leader Anwar Ibrahim is like the new Duterte of ASEAN in terms of lawyering for ASEAN. He was here in Berkeley a few months ago and saying, hindi kami katulad ng Filipinas. We are friendly. China is a friend. Don't be China-phobic. Like, ito ang problema sa West. They talk about shared values, rules-based order, and then they put all the money in countries that are, frankly, a lot of them are opportunistic, if not pro-China. Even India. Aminin natin, India is, you know, one day they get arms from Russia, one day they're friendly with Biden. Those are not reliable partners, to be honest about it, if you want to talk about rules-based order. So, para sa akin, mahalaga din na magkaroon ng strategic investments in the Philippines. Kasi alam natin sa a lot of the propaganda of the Makapili Club, di ba, is pag China tayo, magkakaroon tayo ng high-speed railway investment. Obviously, hindi nangyari sa panahon ni Digong, but they'll blame BBM for that. So I think it's important na may ibigay din ng mga Amerikano and mga Hapon. In fairness, mga Hapon naman, it's not like they haven't done much. They have done a lot also in the Philippines. But there has to be those kind of investments, semiconductors, things that make it easier for BBM to say, see, dito na tayo tataya, hindi nga tayo binubuli, tinutulungan pa tayo. Bakit tayo dun sa China? Hingi sila ng kapalit. Wala naman libre sa China. I mean, whoever thinks with China, you talk nice to them, you'll get everything. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, ako naman just to be fair to this Marcos administration. Remember nung 6 years ni Duterte, he shooed away the investors from EU, US lahat because of the human rights violations. Talagang nag-shut off yung natin foreign direct investments. Now, under the new administration, inobserbahan nila eh. Ano ba to? Is this the continuation of the Duterte administration? Nung nakikita nilang, uy, medyo okay, medyo na. So, last year, they decided na tipong I think it's safe now. Kumbaga, it's a green light. Ngayon pa lang nila sinasabi yung pwede kayong pumasok. Yung mga nila, mga ambassadors nila dito, economic counselors, nakikita nila na medyo okay na yung Pilipinas. Last year lang, probably the second half of last year. Kaya doon pa lang nila hinihikayat, Doon pa lang sila nagsisend ng positive signals sa ating sa kanilang mga negosyante. But then ito nga inaantay pa rin nila. At tapos isa pang signal yung kay Senator Laila de Lima, 'di ba? Tapos itong potential itong ICC. This would be parang enticements for investors to come in. Pero mga yan, a few years down the road pa malalasap ng Pilipino yan.
Yeah, you have to really regain their trust and confidence. And I think this is very important. The Duterte legacy we keep on forgetting. I mean, I had a EU person coming to me saying he was very shocked na one day kausap nila yung people in finance, hindi ko naman sabihin sino, pero medyo malalaking tao nung panahon ni Digong. And sabi nila, bahala kayo dyan. Andyan naman yung China eh. And they were like shocked, like how naive you are. Like, saan yung investment ng China? Purong pledge lang, di ba? Pledge drop. And anong klaseng matinong bansa mag-isip na doon lang tayo sa isang bansa? Di ba? You will have no leverage, right? So,
Yeah.
maraming na-shock, including Europeans, with the amount of naivety and aggressive, I'll be honest, stupidity of some of the supposedly smart officials ng panahon hindi ko. And they come to me and say, Richard, sino to mga to? Akala namin mga technocrats mga to. So, ewan ko dyan, may in Department of Finance nga, binabash pa nga ako dati, may mga press release pa sila. Like, it was that bad during Digong na even some of the technocratic people were playing politics talaga and DDS propaganda nonsense. Now, Senator Diaz,
Hindi, ikaw ko lang,
go
Richard, I
ahead.
forgot to mention this. Early on do sa secret deal, bakit ganun lopsided? Di ba? Bakit bigay ng bigay si Duterte? Ang reason
I see what you're
is
saying.
compromised siya. Okay, nagbigay sa kanya during the campaign. Tapos ito ang daming mga big ticket projects na kumikita sila. That's why they have to yan yung pag-reciprocate nila. Kasi kumikita sila eh. Compromised masyado. Yan yung department officials na sinasabi mo na yan. I may have an idea who you are referring to. Pero kasama yan dun sa sindikato nila na nagpasok nung China Telco, no? Na talagang binigay nila. They twisted the arms of local businessmen just to provide what the China telco needed. So nakuha nila pati franchise, pati yung access sa mga bases, lahat-lahat. Yun ang reason kung bakit compromised yung kanilang foreign policy is because kumita sila ng malaki.
Very good point. I mean, I would say even to be nice, I think the whole shadow of Chinese investment structured, 'di ba? Yung tapang nila kasi hindi sayang baka may investment. But of course, you're implying maybe it's not just that. Maybe it's a bit
Yeah.
more than that. But to be fair to NEDA Secretary Pernia, no? I think one reason he resigned, no? Wala masyadong mga cabinet secretary resign. I think it's because hindi talaga siya natutuwa sa mga takbo ng mga bagay-bagay sa ilan ng Duterte administration. Quiet pa rin si Pernia. I think he has a story to tell. Hopefully one day, 'di ba, malaman natin kasi alam niya yung mga kalokohan ng China eh. Yung mga investments. Kasi from what I understand, ang dami mga pledges and then papunta yung NEDA natin sa Beijing, wala pala eh, hanggang ano lang, boka-boka lang. So you wonder, ano ba yung enticement talaga ng China? Is it really big ticket investments or well, something else? But before going there, I want to talk about Sara Duterte because no comment. Why would the Vice President of the Republic, who has everything to say about Afghan refugees coming in, about conflict in Gaza and Israel, about I don't know, she has statement on everything except pag binubuli tayo ng China sa West Philippine Sea. Tapos pumasok pa si Pulong sa usapan. What's going on there, Senator Trillanes?
Well, doon mo makikita, kumaga, we don't need to be rocket scientists to figure out kung nasaan yung puso ni Sara Duterte. Ayaw niyang, di ba, if you don't want to compromise yourself, di ba, might as well not say anything. Kasi if she says something positive for China, ibaba siya. Di ba? Kung sabihin naman niya, magsabi naman siya ng negative about China, compromised na rin sila eh. 'Di ba? So ando doon na yung kanilang loyalty and commitment. So ang gawin na lang, mag-no comment ka na lang and try to parang and hope that this issue will blow away or ma-redirect yung attention to other people. Pero hanggang kailan siya magtatago sa ganyan? 'Di ba? Yun ang problema. And sana makita naman ng mga kababayan natin na ano talaga, na compromised sila as a family, no? Pro-China na sila talaga. Yun.
Well, may sinabi si Pulong na don't demonize China. Sabi ko parang, interesting yung mga ganun. Parang China pang victim. Kawawa naman ang China, dinidemonize natin. Wala naman silang ginagawa eh. Binibigyan tayo ng libreng ligo, di ba? So, I mean, I just find, siguro, okay, ganito, I'll ask you, Sir, point blank. Do you think China made a bad investment?
Masasabi mo good investment kasi 6 years they had a grand time dito sa Pilipinas, di ba? Nagkamali sila in assuming na si President Marcos will be as the same as Duterte. In fact, pati yung mga pink, ang assumption is the same eh. Kaya nga sabi ko, teka, kamali tayo dito. We need to accept the fact na si President Marcos is different from Duterte and that is a good thing, 'di ba? So siguro yung yun nga kung investment nila napakinabangan nila for 6 years, now they don't have any other choice. They still believe that Sara Duterte can be president in any situation na maaw si President Marcos or sa 2028 bobombahan nila yan, bubuhusan nila ng pondo and ipapanalo nila through that. Kumbaga, they will have to keep on hoping that their investments eventually would be recouped, di ba?
Yeah, speaking of libreng paligo at mabango at guwapo at presko, the Tulfos are doing very well, di ba? So ngayon confirmed na at least two surveys are showing Rafi Tulfo is now the front runner, although it's quite close in the Pulse Asia one because of the Mindanao numbers. 70 plus are just with Sara. Konti lang support kay Rafi so far. So maybe that opens up conversation about sinong dapat VP niya down the road. But dun sa Okta survey, for instance, we had Professor Ranjit Rai the other day here on our show. When we talk about, nung pinasok si Ben Tulfo, nag number 4 si Ben. Si Erwin still at number 1, although went down. Like, this is crazy levels. I mean, of course, Duterte's are not doing too bad in the surveys. Sara is still statistically tied for first or at least second in surveys. Pulong and Basta are within range. Tigong is still top 5. So, I'm not saying laos ng mga Duterte, but clearly the Tulfos are the new force here. Ikaw bilang isang machong lalaki, Sir Sani, ano pag-intindi mo dito sa sa abandoned warehouse? Kahapon kasi kinagaya nung kasama ko dito si Ben Tulfo. Kita tayo sa abandoned warehouse. Anong nabasa mo dito, Sir Trillanes?
Well, well, I think it's yung na-mention nyo and I think in one of your episodes yung the Tulfo brand, di ba? Yun na ngayon yung parang uso, no? But kung titignan mo, yung Tulfo brand is a modification of the tried and tested formula of yung public service na ginagawa ni, let's say, yung dati, yung kina Eddie Ilarde pa, kina Orly Mercado, yung nag-a-address sila, may tatawag ng mga hinaing na mga kababayan natin, then sila, they will address it, they will call the agencies na para mabigay yon or minsan sila mismo nabibigay. Ganon yun eh. Tapos ginawa rin yun, another modification, yung kila Cayetano, Kompanyero, yung legal advice approach naman, ginawa rin nila cheese yun. So, ganun yung pero itong mga Tulfo, medyo sa kanila, yung the macho type, di ba? Which is always pumapatok sa Filipino voters. O early on, meron kami yung ERAP. Si ERAP, ano yan, President Erap, ganyan din yon. Macho cowboy type.
Action star.
Fred Lim. O si Fred Lim, yung ano to, parang Dirty Harry type. Then you have Duterte. So kumbaga, ano siya eh, actually parang isang mukha lang siya, nagkaroon lang ng mga modification. So
Variations on
itong
a theme. Variation.
variations, oo. So
Oh,
yung from the earlier Orly Mercado, Eddie Ilarde approach, yan yon yung kila Senator Raffy Tulfo, kina Erwin Tulfo, yan, ganyan. Tapos may konting aksyon na kasi nagre-raid sila, ganon. And to be fair, no, nakita ko yung mga pumipila talaga doon kina Senator Raffy. Talagang they're pinning their hopes on him, and hindi lahat ng kunyari no, hindi na feature sa TV, pero tinutulungan pa rin nila. So maraming natutulungan behind the scenes, kaya kumalat ng kumalat yung ganyang ano, storyline. And yan na ngayon. I believe that's going to hold until
2028.
2028. So yun naman yun. Kaso may natural termination siya kasi everybody gets old eh. At some point, di ba? Then may bagong uso, may bagong ano. So ganun lang 'yon. It comes in ano parang fads or trends na 'yon. Mm.
Weather lang, sabi nga ni Serrera.
Pero ni President Erap.
Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm offended that you didn't mention Robin Hood Padilla. But
Ah,
speaking of Robin Hood Padilla, actually, the interesting thing we see in the Pulse Asia survey is conversation about vice president. And Robin Hood is
mhm,
not doing too well. I think it's even lower than Amy Marcos. The one that comes out very strongly for VP is Grace Poe. She's
mhm,
way ahead of everyone else at around 35%. So with statistical margins, she could go all the way up to 40% almost, no? Are you surprised with Gracepo still doing very well? Because let's not forget, 2016, Gracepo at some point was seen as a front runner. The citizen issue came about, and Duterte took advantage of that. Obviously, he took advantage of all of yung away ng tatlo na yan, Binay versus Mar versus Po. Do you think Gracepo could also be a factor in 2028? Kasi parang kinancel siya ng mga dilawan, for the lack of better
yeah,
term, because biniblame siya for Mar's loss, although I have big questions with that claim.
yeah.
Based on second, third preferences. What is your read on the Graceful? Because Poe is also a form of populism, right? Except Graceful is more than just a populist carrying her father's name.
And ano, no, just for ano, full disclosure, we were supporting Senator Grace Poe back in 2016.
Exactly, that's why I'm
And like
asking.
you, yeah, and like you, we don't agree with that yung sinasabi nilang iyon siya ang reason kung ba't natalo si ano, hindi talaga ganon. Kung nag-withdraw man si Senator Grace Poe from the presidency, tataas lang ang lamang ni Duterte over Mar Rojas because iba talaga yung ano nila, yung gusto nila, no, kaya dilipat. So anyway, what's done is done. Ngayon nakikita ko ang idea nila is if they are going to push for Raffy Tulfo for president, siguro magandang parisa ng somebody nice and ano, alam mo yun, babae na tipong very ano
Often
siya,
the image. Yeah.
oh, parang mas open yung image pag parang ganon. Siguro yun yung compliment na naiisip nila. And at the same time, palagay ko na na-expose na rin yung kumbaga yung myth na when they elected people like Robin Padilla, Amy Marcos sa vice presidency, ngayon nakita nila na may mga aspetong kulang, and in the case ni Amy Marcos, because of the open war between the Marcoses and the Dutertes, siya yung casualty. And tinatamaan din talaga yung numbers niya all around. No? And we're getting similar results in our internal survey.
And let's now go to the last but most important part of our episode. Pag-usapan naman natin ang opposition because Lenny still ends up at number 3 dun sa Pulse Asia survey for 2028. I mean, we can have a lot of conversation about it, but it looks like Lenny's still being considered as the standard bearer for the opposition should 2028 come. What does that say? Because for me, one thing I found interesting in the Okta research is one of their researches was about political affiliation. So nung tinignan nila, 31% is with BBM camp, loyalista. 20% is with the Duterte camp. Although I'm shocked na may 1% pa rin ng mga Ilocanos supporting Duterte. I was wondering, sino itong mga Ilocano niya? I don't see that in bagay. Siguro mga taga Davao na Ilocano yan. Kasi may
Yeah.
1% eh. Kasi meron siyang sub-regional, di ba? Sabi ko, sino itong mga 1% na yan? Patawagin ko nga yung
Yeah,
ano ko
yeah.
dyan, mga nasa Ilocos Norte. So, that was a very interesting survey. I found it very, very helpful. Kasi makikita mo, believable yung mga sub-demographics din eh. And then
Mm.
4% traditional opposition, my understanding is probably Liberal Party to. And then 45% either undecided, independent, up for grabs. Hindi ba parang good news yan, Senator Trillanes, that there's just so much more out there that we can explore in terms of mobilizing na hindi benta mga Duterte sa kanila, hindi benta mga Marcos sa kanila. I suppose that will also reflect on the Tulfo brand and all. So there's a large constituency that is still not mobilized, and perhaps maybe that should be the conversation for the opposition. Kasi kanina purong ibang pinag-usapan natin. Let's now talk
Yeah.
about the option for the opposition, real opposition, not the digong opposition.
Okay. While you may have seen the numbers of Leni Robredo na medyo significant at 11. But ako naman, ang nakita ko ron from 28% just 2 years ago, because hindi niya kinonsolidate at pinabayaan basically yung base na yon, bumaba ng 11. So I'm not seeing na parang it's a strong 11, but no, pababa yon. From 28 yun eh. And that's the same thing that happened in 2016. She got 33% of the vote, but then when she decided to run for president, she only was, I think, 6 or 7. So, hinayaan mo nang bumaba ng bumaba. And gano'n na naman nangyayari dito. Kaya I believe, kailangan na natin talagang mag-ano na, mag, magbago ng liderato. And si Senator Risa is very much ready to assume that leadership role. If only etong si Vice President Lenny would openly, categorically, and definitively say, Senator Risa, ikaw na ang ano, hindi na ako tatakbo, and she can ask the pollsters to strike her name off any 2028 list for president. Yan eh kung totoong ayaw niya na or hindi na siya interesadong tumakbo for president. Kasi kung interesado ka naman pala, then do the legwork, di ba? Mag magtrabaho ka, i-consolidate mo yung pinagkatiwalaan tayo ng 2028. Siya, for that matter, pinagkatiwalaan siya ng 2022 ng 28% of the people. Anuhan mo, kumbaga i-consolidate mo. Tapos do the other necessary preparation para kung 2028, edi she will win. Pero kung ganun ulit na style na tipong, teka muna, bahala na muna kayo dyan, I'll just go around the world muna, mag-chill muna ako. Teka muna, what about the problems of the country? Di ba? Hindi naman natapos yung problema ng bansa nung natalo siya. No? So, ano ba yon? Did she stop caring about the problems of the country? So, ano yung mga leadership traits na dinidisplay niya dito or lack thereof, di ba? Ngayon, sabi ko nga, kung talagang wala naman ng plano, edi definitively sabihin mo na, hindi na ako talaga tatakbo. Final na yan. Senator Risa, good luck. I will help you. I will
So she
turn
should do a
over.
second passing down like talagang ito na talaga. Si Risa, by the way,
Yeah.
ganun. Should she remind everyone that Risa is the opposite?
Yes, kasi yung unang passing of the baton, ano yun eh, merong hangover pa eh. People were still clinging on to that image of Eleni Robredo presidency. Kaya hindi pa nag-sink in ng time na yon. Tsaka hindi siya widely disseminated. Pero kung gagawin niya ito ulit definitively and ano, then mas ano yon, mas ma-appreciate yun ng tao. Okay, we'll move on na from Lenny Risa it is, then let's start rallying around the Senator Risa. And I think that's the only hope for the independent opposition to have a chance in 2028.
And again, just to be fair here, siguro ang tingin ko is there are people, I'm not saying Lenny, but maybe there are strategists of her who are saying, um, let's have strategic ambiguity, if I can put it that way. Para siyang yung sa West Philippine Sea policy. Let's have a strategic ambiguity. Let's see what she does. If 2025 she wins at local government office, and then she does well, then who knows? Maybe she'll be in that position. What you're saying is that neither here nor there is kind of a suboptimal for everyone because it doesn't allow for Riza to step up. It also doesn't necessarily put her in the best position to get the ball rolling for
Yeah.
2020 because we can see Sarah is already in a campaign mode in one way or another. Rafi is already doing that, although he's not directly attacking Sarah, but clearly we see what Rafi's strategy is. Don't talk about Sarah. Make sure that you do your part well, and that strategy is working wonders for Rafi Tulfo so far. From ilang percent lang siya nung 2 years ago, di ba? Ngayon, 35, magpo 40% to siya. So what you're saying is that this neither here nor there, medyo malilate na tayo. Even though some would say, hindi, malayo pa naman ang 2028 eh. Masyado naman kayong atat, masyado kayong advance mag-isip kayong dalawa eh.
Well, yung ambiguous approach na yan yung ginawa nila nung 20, in the lead up to 2022. 'Di ba? Look at what happened to us. Kung nag-expect ka ng different result, 'di ba? Dapat teka muna, the same approach, different result. Medyo may problema tayo diyan. Tapos ang sabi ko nga, ma-equate ko 'yan dun sa ano sa no comment ni Sarah eh. 'Di ba?
Baka uso talaga ngayon ang strategy yung
Oo,
ambiguity
parang gano'n.
talaga.
Teka muna. Oo, ano na, parang, ito lang yung sa akin, ano, from a purely public service point of view, bakit kailangan ka pa ba hiyakatin, hikayatin or kumbinsihin tumakbong presidente? 'Di ba? Kung talagang nakikita mong you have the capacity to make a difference in the lives of the people at marami kang nasimulan ng mga base and besides vice president ka eh. 'Di ba? Hindi ba dapat ando doon na 'yon sa iyo na tipong sige, let's go for it. Bakit kailangan pang kumbinsihin? Kung talaga mahal mo yung bayan, magkukusa ka. So yun yung problema ko diyan. Hindi dapat hindi dapat nililigawan ang leader. Dapat yung leader namumuno.
Right. Just a tiny point on this. I mentioned yung 40-45% na somehow up for grabs. How do we get those people on the side of the good fight, Senator Trillanes? Ano yung mga katangihan, ano yung mga attributes, ano yung mga positioning na sa tingin mong kailangan natin, especially mga kabataan, di ba? Aside from making better TikTok videos and travel vlogs, ano pang ibang kailangan natin, Senator Trillanes?
Well, remember, yun na nga kaya binabalik ko dun sa 28% ni VP Lenny just 2 years ago. Yun, they held on to that dream. Di ba? Ando doon yun. So part of that 45 is the 28. Kasi ang hiniwalay lang naman is the Duterte 21 and the 20 and the 31 of the
Oh, tapos
Marcoses. So
4% lang yung Liberal Party opposition.
oo. So bakit? Oh, for that matter, yung 4% nag-shrink pa. So dati 28. So yung 24 niya na bumoto sa kanya nandoon sa 45. 'Di ba? So in fact, kung sino pinakamalaki na walang dito, si Lenny, yung pink base, ando doon siya kasi naghahanap sila ng leader.
So,
'Di
the
ba?
Tulfo Sara is essentially the split of Uniteam, di ba? Yung 60 na yan, na-split
Yeah,
ngayon ni Sara and Tulfo. Oh.
I believe so. So ngayon, pagka lumiwanag na yung leadership ng pink, ng pink movement, yun, mag-gravitate yun towards that. Kasi ngayon talaga napabayaan eh. Pabayaan. And kaya naghahanap or iba nasa parang ano muna yung holding pattern. Ano bang nangyayari diyan? Sige, abangan natin. But I believe yan, it boils down to the next leader of the independent opposition kung paano niya ay ikakamada yung kanyang organisasyon, paano niya ikakamada yung kanyang mensahe at paano niya ma-inspire yung yung 45 na yun or at least yung 25 na yun na siya yung kailangan pagkatiwalaan mamuno ng ating bansa after the Marcos administration.
Very,
Mhm.
very good point. Actually, even more optimistic than I was considering una. You're right. Dun sa 40+% na yan, maybe half of that were already sympathetic, if not already involved in the pink movement. So that just tells you how much more is untapped here or undertapped here. Kaya mahalaga itong mga conversation na yan. 5 a.m. to kanina sa akin. Medyo worried ako na medyo bangag ako and all. Pero as always, more than an hour of conversation, like a
Yes.
breeze. Very passionate. Thank you so much, Senator Trillanes, for the passion and for the wide-ranging discussion we're having here. Looking forward to having more of this in the future. Siguro we can do somewhere in Tagaytay, some in person. I'm sure ma-appreciate ng tao
Yeah.
yan para ano mo na. Thank you so much, Senator Trillanes. Magpahinga po kayo. God bless.
Maraming salamat, Richard. Thank you.
As always, talk to you soon.